round a number, you are trying to find a number which is very close to the original number, but it's easier to work with. The important point is that your rounded number is easier to work with, and you know that your result will be close enough to the actual number. So for example, if you're skipping a rope 243 times and somebody asked you, about how many times did you skip the rope? And you said, oh, about 250 times, you just rounded your number. But if you had skipped the rope only 21 times and somebody asked you, oh, about how many times did you skip rope? And you said, oh, about 250. That is not a good example of rounding because 250 is nowhere near 21. If you had said, oh, I skipped it about 20 times, that would be a good example of rounding. When you round a number, you round it to a place value. So the problems look something like this. Round the following numbers to the nearest 10. And then we're given our numbers, 11, 28, 34, and 55. So what does this mean to round to the nearest 10? If you are rounding a number to the nearest 10 in this case, it means that you are trying to find the multiple of 10 that is closest to each of your numbers. So let's look at a number line here, a typical number line that's marked off with all whole numbers from 0 to 60. So I know this is kind of hard to see because they're such small markings, but imagine that all the way from 0 to 60, I have markings at every whole number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to 60. So I'm going to begin by plotting each of my numbers on this typical whole number line. So my 11 is going to go right here, and that would be that spot right there on my number line. The 28 I would plot right up here, close to the 30 would be my 28. My 34 would be right here. 34 would be that marking on my number line, and my 55 would be clear up here, marked right on this whole number on my number line of 55. So now we're going to move to a little different number line. Now imagine that you have a number line also going from 0 to 60, but the only markings on our number line are the multiples of 10. So I only have markings at 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. And so what we'll do is we're going to come down here and we're going to put our numbers on this number line approximately where they would land. So my 11 would be about right here. My 28 would be about right here. My 34 would be about here. And my 55 would be about here on this number line that's marked only by multiples of 10. So, to round these numbers, we are going to slide them to their closest multiple of 10. And so before we do this though, there are some rules that you need to know about rounding. If your number ends in a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, you are going to round that number, you're going to slide it up on the number line. If your number ends in a 1, 2, 3, or 4, you're going to slide it down on the number line. And if your number ends in a 0, it's already a multiple of 10, so it can stay right where it's at. So on this 11 here, since this ends in a 1, that's a 1, 2, 3, or 4, I'm going to slide it down, and you can see that it's very close to the 10. So this 11 is going to slide down to this 10. And so if I take this whole set that I have here, and I'm asked to round these numbers to the nearest 10, my 11 here is going to be rounded down to a 10. Now let's take a look at the 28. I look at the last digit of my number, the 8, and I see that that is either a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. And so I know I'm going to round up to the 30. And I can see here visually that my 28 is really close to the 30. And I slide that 28 up on the number line to the next closest multiple of 10, which is 30. So my 28 is rounded up to 30. Now the 34 here that I have on my number line, that we need to look at our last number, and remember, if it ends in a 1, 2, 3, or 4, we round down. So the 34 is actually going to slide down and round down to 30 as well. So the 28 rounded up to 30, and the 34 rounds down to 30. So I've got two 30s here actually in my answers. Now I look at my 55. Now be careful with your 5s. 5s always round up. So I look at the last number, it's a 5, and anything that ends in a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 always rounds up. So at this 55, I would slide it up to the 60 and round up. The nearest multiple of 10 would be 60.